Hello, my dear friends. The fog clings to your boots like something alive, curling upward in thick tendrils that make the earth itself seem to breathe. The ground beneath you is not solid. At least it doesn't feel that way. It feels like it could open at any second, like the dead might reach up with muddy fingers and pull you under. The air is dense with the iron stink of blood and the sharp tang of sweat and cordite. Somewhere out in the gray, you swear you can still hear artillery humming in the distance, though the war ended over a century ago. And yet, here you are. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, where are you listening from? And what time is it right now? I want to know how far this voice is reaching tonight. Let's start listening to this story to see how thrilling, heart-stopping, and creepy it is. The year was 1917. Verdun was hell on earth. Shell holes so deep they looked like the mouths of giants, mud that swallowed men whole, and corpses stacked like firewood behind the lines. France was bleeding, inch by inch, and no one was safe. Not the generals, not the horses, and certainly not the medics. Especially not the medics. Henri Leclerc was 27 years old, newly trained in battlefield triage and hopelessly idealistic. He wore wire-framed glasses and carried a silver pocket watch, a gift from his mother that he checked compulsively. Everyone said he had soft hands, not made for war, and a face that looked like it still belonged to a schoolboy. But when it came to pulling shattered men out of craters and stitching their legs back together in the mud, there was no one faster, no one calmer. They called him l'ange de brouillard, the angel of the fog, because Henri would go where no one else would, into gunfire, into gas, into the fog. It was late October when it happened. Rain had fallen for 6 days straight. The trenches were practically soup. A company near the Bois de Cours was hit hard. Machine guns from the German side had torn through their right flank. At twilight, the shelling paused just long enough for a desperate voice to rise over the trench walls. Medic! Henri was already climbing out before anyone stopped him. You can't see 2 feet ahead, shouted Lieutenant Moreau, grabbing his coat. You'll get lost in it. Henri just nodded. I'll whistle when I find him. He tapped the tin whistle around his neck. Every field medic had one, though few ever used it, and vanished over the edge. No one saw where he went. No one saw anything. The fog that night was not natural. It wasn't just thick. It moved as if it were hiding something. Soldiers said it swallowed the trench lines entirely, erasing the world. The only thing they ever heard again was one long, shrill whistle in the dark, and then silence. The silence stretched, 10 minutes, 30, an hour. They called, they fired flares, they begged him to come back, but Henri Leclerc never returned. By dawn, the fog had finally thinned. A 5-man team, led by Lieutenant Moreau, searched the zone. They found the dying soldier Henri had gone to save, his head cracked open like a melon, beyond help. No Henri, no bag, no whistle, no drag marks, no boot prints, just churned earth and something wrong. Moreau later claimed the air felt warmer than it should have in one particular crater, as if a stove had just gone out. Another man swore he heard sobbing, very faint, just before they turned back. The official report listed Henri as missing in action, presumed dead. His family received his effects in a sealed box, his spare uniform, his letters, and a melted timepiece believed to be his watch. But what the military didn't report, what couldn't be explained, was what happened that night in the trench, hours after Henri disappeared. Private Belland, 18 years old, said he woke to someone whispering in his ear. Je l'ai trouvé, the voice said. I found him. Belland turned, thinking it was a dream, and saw a figure in the dugout entrance. He said it was Henri, same uniform, same glasses, same silver chain dangling from his pocket, but his skin was gray, not muddy, gray, like candle wax. The figure stood for 5 seconds before vanishing back into the night. Belland didn't sleep for the rest of the war. He told no one until 1921, when he was institutionalized for severe hallucinations and battlefield trauma. His file mentioned persistent visions of fog and a dead medic. But he wasn't the only one. 3 other soldiers later claimed to have seen Henri in the days following his disappearance, walking the trench line silently at night, staring into the sky like he was lost. And then the fog returned. On All Saints' Day, it came in thick again, same time, same place. A cook swore he saw someone outside the mess tent, just standing there in the soup of mist. When he approached, he heard a whistle, the old tin kind, but no one was there. Eventually, the unit was rotated out. The war dragged on. Henri Leclerc became just another name on a plaque, another lost soul to the endless machine of history. And yet, there are still reports. In 1928, in 1942, in 1963. Each time, it's the same story. Thick fog, a lone figure in a WWI medic uniform, walking silently, always holding a whistle, always heading towards someone who's hurt or dying. Now it's your turn. You've come to Verdun, haven't you? Just to see, just to feel it for yourself. And tonight, the fog rolls in again. You hear it first like something dragging across the earth. Then, a whistle, long and slow. And somewhere out there, a medic is still walking, still looking, still trying to save a life he never reached. Maybe yours. The sound comes again, shrill, metallic, distant, but clear enough to freeze you where you stand. It's a whistle, unmistakable, cutting clean through the wind like a scalpel through flesh. Not the digital kind, not even the modern military sort. This sound is old, simple, and too soft for the vast silence around you. But you hear it. You shouldn't. Because you're alone. The year is no longer 1917, yet somehow you feel the soil remembering. Verdun is a place of ghosts and craters, trenches and twisted metal, some of it still buried, some of it clawing its way up after the rain. And tonight, the mist moves again, low and deliberate, pooling at your feet as if deciding whether or not to let you go. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to the first time they heard the whistle after Henry vanished. It was late November. The trenches were quieter then, the soldiers preparing for what they hoped would be a dull winter. A new squad had taken over Henry's old post. They knew the stories, of course. Every new soldier did. The angel medic who walked into the fog and was never seen again. But you know how soldiers are. Superstition lives side by side with survival. One minute you're joking about ghosts. The next, you're muttering a prayer to Saint Michael as you light a cigarette with shaking hands. Private Giraud was on sentry duty that night. He was new, just transferred from Champagne, and had a nasty cough he couldn't shake. At 2:14 a.m., as noted in the watch logs, he sounded the alarm. Why? He heard the whistle, a single tone held for about 2 seconds. When his commanding officer, Sergeant Dumont, came out to investigate, Giraud was pale and mumbling. Not about what he'd heard, but what he'd seen. He claimed there was a figure standing just beyond the trench wall, right where the fog began. Not moving, not speaking, just watching. The sergeant, of course, thought it was shell shock or nerves, until he heard it too. Another whistle, this time shorter, 2 quick bursts. The fog thickened, just like in the reports from a month earlier. Dumont ordered 2 men to flank left and right, thinking it might be an enemy scout using superstition as cover. But both soldiers returned within 10 minutes, visibly shaken. They hadn't found a spy. They hadn't found a man. They'd found nothing except the fresh imprint of boot prints, French-issue boots, and a small bent scalpel lying beside them. It was rusted at the tip but sharp, unmistakably a medic's tool. It didn't belong to anyone in the unit. The handle had initials etched into it, HL. After that, the rumors came faster than bullet wounds. Soldiers began reporting strange dreams of fog pouring through the trenches and a figure with a lantern walking silently past their beds. Some woke with the smell of ether on their blankets. Others said they'd heard whispered French in the darkness. Always the same words. T'es vivant? Je peux t'aider? Are you alive? I can help you. A few laughed it off. They called it trench madness. But others started to whisper something else. Henry was still trying to finish the rescue, still looking for the man he'd left behind. And if you heard the whistle, it meant he thought you were hurt, or worse, dying. By December, soldiers began sleeping in groups, afraid to be alone in the early hours. One officer tried to ban talk of Henry altogether. That worked for 4 days, until the man woke one morning with a blood-soaked bandage wrapped neatly around his wrist. The problem was, he had no injury, and no idea how it got there. The field medic on duty, alive and confused, swore he never applied it. They opened an inquiry. They found nothing. But that night, the wind shifted direction. The fog rolled in earlier than usual, crawling low along the ground. 3 men saw the same thing. a pale-faced figure kneeling over a prone body near the barbed wire perimeter. When they shouted, the figure stood. He raised a hand, not in surrender, but in greeting. Then the fog swallowed him. By January, it had a name, Le Siffleur, the Whistler. Men refused solo watches. Some claimed to feel someone breathing next to them in the dugouts. One man fired blindly into the fog and nearly hit a fellow soldier. After that, they stopped talking about it in reports. But the stories never stopped. You see, superstition in war is like a wound you never clean. It festers. It becomes part of the landscape. And in Verdun, the land remembers. Years passed, the war ended. Trenches filled in. Monuments went up. But Le Siffleur never left, and the whistle never stopped. In 1920, a British journalist touring old battlefields claimed he heard it, standing on the very hill where Henri had vanished. His guide, a veteran himself, refused to go any farther. In 1934, a farmer plowing land near the old Bois de Cours found a human femur wrapped in a medic's sash. Beneath it, a shattered whistle. It whistled on its own when he picked it up. He dropped it, ran, never came back. And now you're here, aren't you? You came to hear it for yourself, to see if the stories are real. Maybe you even told yourself you don't believe in ghosts. That's okay. Le Siffleur doesn't need you to believe. He just needs you to be hurt, to be alone, to be fading. And when that moment comes, when your blood starts to slow and your breath gets shallow, he will come. You'll hear the whistle. And a voice soft and tired. Je peux t'aider. I can help you. You're walking now. You don't remember when you started. The fog presses against your shoulders, thick as wool, muting every sound except your own footsteps, and the faint crunch of something just behind you. Leaves? No. Gravel? Maybe. Bone? You don't want to turn around, because in Verdun, you don't turn around. The stories are clear on that point. It was spring 1928 when the reports began again. The war was over. France was trying to move on, rebuild, forget, but the land wouldn't let anyone forget. Pierre Deveau, a schoolteacher from Rouen, was a history enthusiast. He'd spent years collecting war relics, interviewing veterans, tracing the old trench lines with a reverent obsession. He didn't believe in ghosts, said so in every letter. He believed in memory, in trauma, in truth, which is ironic considering how he died. Pierre arrived in Verdun in late April with a notebook, a thermos of coffee, and a rucksack full of optimism. He set up camp near the Douaumont ossuary, far enough to be alone, close enough to reach the old battlegrounds by foot. His plan was to spend 1 week retracing the steps of the 21st Infantry Division, Henri Leclerc's division. On the second night it began. At precisely 2:07 a.m., he wrote the following line in his journal. Something just moved outside the tent. Fog rolled in fast. Can't see the trees anymore. He noted a chill in the air, a sudden drop in temperature. Then, 6 minutes later, I heard a whistle. Old-fashioned, sharp. No one else should be out here. Then nothing. No more journal entries. The next day, a groundskeeper found Pierre's tent torn open, the flaps curled outward as if something had been dragged out, not in. His boots were inside, his pack untouched. But his lantern, still lit, sat outside the tent, flickering in the daylight. They found Pierre Deveau 11 hours later, 300 meters away, lying face up in a trench long since filled with weeds. He wasn't dead, not yet, but his mind was gone. He kept whispering the same phrase over and over, his mouth dry, eyes wide open. Il m'a trouvé. He found me. His fingernails were cracked and bleeding, clutching a rusted tin whistle. The doctors couldn't explain it. No trauma, no drugs, just a perfectly healthy man, locked in a state of raw animal terror. Pierre lived another 6 years in a sanitarium outside Lyon. He never spoke again. But in 1932, one of his nurses said she heard him whistling in his sleep, soft and low. And when she leaned close, she swore she saw fog rising off his pillow. You can laugh. It's easier to laugh. But it wasn't just Pierre. A year later, a German tourist disappeared under similar circumstances. He had come to photograph old bunkers, part of a post-war peace effort. His camera was found in a shell crater with the final image still on the roll. A pale silhouette in the fog, barely visible, but unmistakably wearing a medic's armband. The pattern was emerging, even if no one wanted to say it aloud. It always started the same way. 1, fog rolling in without warning. 2, a whistle, faint, often mistaken for the wind. 3, a flash of white in the mist. 4, disappearance. 5, or madness. The French government denied everything. Of course they did. But locals knew. The old woman who ran the bakery in Fleury said you must never visit the battlefield alone. The man who kept the ossuary's lamps burning claimed he once found footprints circling the building at dawn, and the priest Père Lucien told his congregation, if you hear a whistle at night, do not respond. It is not your time, yet. Still, people came. The curious, the skeptics, the thrill seekers. Not all of them returned, or if they did, they weren't the same. One hiker, Jules Bernard, spoke openly about what he saw. He'd camped near the old trench lines in 1946, just after the Second War ended, said he was looking for what the Germans might have left behind. But when the fog came in, it wasn't artifacts he found, it was him. Jules described the figure in exacting detail, a man in an old French medic's coat, spectacles glinting even in the dark, hands covered in blood that never dripped. He held a satchel and stood silently in the fog, staring at Jules. And then, without a word, he moved. Walked straight toward him. Jules ran, sprinted through the trees, tripped, cut his arm open on old wire, passed out from the blood loss. When he woke, it was morning, and his arm, bandaged, perfectly wrapped in white cloth, tied with a precision he said only a trained medic could manage. He had no supplies with him, no first aid kit, and the cloth? It was stitched with the initials H.L. Henri Leclerc, don't you? Of course you do. You're the one who came here looking for him. To see the trenches, to feel the history, to tempt the story. You told yourself it was just that, a story. But now the fog is thicker, now you hear the whistle, and now too late you wonder, what if he's not trying to help anymore? What if he doesn't know the war ended? What if every time he finds someone, he thinks they're still bleeding in the mud? What if to him, you're just another soldier he couldn't save? Another name he's trying to stitch back together? Another soul he's dragging into the mist? So ask yourself this, are you still sure you're unhurt? Still sure you're not dying? He only comes for the dying, right? You wake up on the ground, gravel in your mouth, fog in your lungs. The trees above you creak like old bones shifting in their graves. You don't remember lying down, but somehow you're here, staring up at a gray sky that hasn't changed since 1916. Or has it? There's a weight on your chest, a heaviness that isn't physical. It's like the air itself is mourning something. You sit up, your ears are ringing, and then you hear it. Again, the whistle. 2 short bursts. Friendly. Almost. But you already know better. You're not alone. You haven't been for hours. The fog just made you think you were. And now, finally, he's letting you feel it. Somewhere behind you, fabric brushes against bark. A branch snaps deliberately. Not the clumsy tread of wildlife, but the trained steps of someone who used to move silently across muddy fields to save dying men under fire. You turn slowly. Nothing. Just fog and the impression of a path that wasn't there 10 minutes ago. A trench? No, deeper. Sunken. Overgrown. Almost a scar in the earth. You shouldn't follow it, but you do. Each footstep is quieter than the last. The trees thin, the silence thickens. You pass what looks like the rusted shell of an old helmet half buried in the dirt. A rotted plank of wood with a fading number carved into it. That was Henry's trench. That was trench. You know that now. You reach a bend. The ground here is soft, too soft. You kneel and press your hand into it. It sinks an inch deeper than it should, and beneath your fingertips, cloth, white. You pull. Slowly, carefully, a corner of something unravels from the earth like a secret too tired to stay buried. A medic's armband, still red with a cross, still damp, still warm. Then you hear the whisper, right behind your ear. Il ne reste plus beaucoup de temps. There isn't much time left. You spin, nothing. But now the air smells like ether, sharp, clinical, out of place in the woods. And then you see it, half lost in the fog, 30 paces away, the outline of a man, standing still, facing you, not advancing, not hiding, just waiting. You call out instinctively, who's there? The figure raises something to its mouth. The whistle. Tweet. Short, sharp, ancient, and something inside you breaks. Not out of fear, but recognition. You've heard that exact pitch before, long ago, when you were still a student, listening to a rare field recording in a university archive, an old French field whistle used by medics in WWI to signal that help was needed, or found, or dying. You remember now. You listened to that sound 10, 20 times. Even joked that it sounded like a ghost asking for backup. But this isn't playback. This is real. The figure steps closer. You see the faint shimmer of a round metal mirror dangling from his chest. A stethoscope, no gun, no helmet, just the tools of a man who didn't come to kill. He stopped 6 paces away. You can make out his face now. Thin, hollow, eyes too wide, like he hasn't blinked in 100 years. He looks human, but wrong. His skin pale, bruised in places that shouldn't bruise. Lips cracked, yet moving. Je suis là. I'm here. Your heart punches your ribs. Because that voice, that's the voice from your dreams. The one you keep hearing when you sleep too close to places people died. You try to speak, but your throat tightens. He tilts his head, curious, not malicious. He takes a slow step forward. You see the mud caked on his boots, the blood on his gloves, one hand trembling like he's not used to stillness. He raises his arm and points to your leg. You look down. Your trousers are torn. Fresh blood soaks the fabric just above the knee. You hadn't noticed. Adrenaline, probably, or something else. The medic reaches into his satchel. You want to run. Every cell in your body is screaming to flee, but something else roots you. Not fear, something older, sadder. Pity? You whisper, "Are you Henry?" He pauses and smiles. It's not comforting. It's not evil either. It's the smile of someone who forgot how to smile a long, long time ago. Then he kneels beside you, reaches out with trembling hands, and begins to bandage your leg with practiced precision. You watch, breathless. Not because it hurts, but because it doesn't. You feel nothing. No sting, no pressure, just the idea of healing. His fingers tie the cloth with a perfect surgeon's knot. He whispers something you don't catch, and then he vanishes. Just like that, no flicker, no sound, gone. But the bandage remains, white, clean, impossible. You sit in the fog, heart jackhammering, trying to make sense of what just happened. Then, from behind a tree, a second figure emerges, taller, less distinct, no uniform, and he is not alone. There are others now. Figures rising like smoke from the trench scars, silent, watching, surrounding, not all soldiers, some in civilian clothes, some holding cameras, some with nothing at all. They don't approach, they only wait. And suddenly you understand something dreadful. Henry doesn't always come for the dying. Sometimes he brings the dying back, and now they follow him because they think you're one of them, and maybe, just maybe, you are. You're not sure how long you've been standing still. The fog doesn't move around you anymore. It clings, like wet sheets, like old breath. The figures don't come closer, but they're not fading either. They linger in that impossible half-light where you can just barely make out what they once were. A woman in a wool skirt with her face split in grief. A man in a trench coat, arms stiff at his sides, eyes fixed on nothing. A boy, he can't be older than 15, carrying a shattered gas mask like a toy. They don't look at you. They look through you. You take a step back. The medic isn't there anymore. Henri Leclerc has vanished again, but his work remains. You glance at your leg. The bandage is no longer white. It's stained now, brown at the edges, almost fossilized. You reach down to touch it and feel nothing but your own skin. It's not there. No cloth, no wound, just the memory of it. And the cold. You start walking. You don't even know which direction. Forward, away, towards something less impossible. The ground squelches beneath your boots, and as you pass the spot where the figure stood, you risk a glance back. They're gone. All of them. But the fog? Still here. It never leaves Verdun. You stumble across a collapsed shelter, wooden beams rotting, the remnants of sandbags frozen in a state of half-melted ruin. A sign, barely legible, is nailed into one of the beams. Poste de secours, 21. Of course, Henry's division. This was where he worked, or tried to. You duck inside. It shouldn't still be standing. The storms, the years, the Second War, they should have erased it. But somehow, it's intact enough to shelter you. Inside, it's pitch black. The air tastes of damp earth and antiseptic. You flick your flashlight on. It dies instantly. You try your phone. Black screen. The silence thickens, and then faint, metallic, dry. A whisper of paper. You blink. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust. Then you see them, notes, hundreds of them, pinned to the walls, scattered across crates, stuck into seams in the broken timber, all of them stained, old, all written in the same hand. Henry's. You step closer. Some are torn from journals, others scribbled on scraps of uniform, even old wrappers. Each one tells a story. Too many wounded, supplies gone. Must choose. Jules lost his arm today, Told him he'd play violin again. I keep seeing them after they die. They look at me like it's my fault. I hear whistling even when I sleep. They follow me, even when I run. You keep reading. Some are letters never sent, to his mother, to a woman named Colette, to whoever finds this. Then you see it, one that freezes the marrow in your spine. I thought I could save them. Now I patch shadows. They keep coming back, asking for more. There is no end to the war for me. If you're reading this, leave before you become one of us. Before you forget you were ever alive. You reel back. The floor creaks beneath your feet, and suddenly you're falling. Through, you crash into a space below. The darkness swallows you whole. For a moment, you feel nothing but mud, and then, light. A dull oil lamp glow flickers behind a curtain. You're in what looks like a surgical chamber. Stone walls, rusted tools, and that stench. Ether, blood, fear. You crawl forward, every instinct screaming to stop. But you reach the curtain, pull it back, and there he is. Alive? Not quite. God, yes. He's hunched over a body on a stretcher, working in silence. His hands move fast, wrapping gauze, checking a pulse that clearly isn't there. He mutters soft apologies in French. He doesn't see you. Or maybe he does, and he doesn't care anymore. You step closer. The body on the stretcher, its face is yours. No blood, no wounds, just a copy. A mirror, except the eyes are open, and they're staring at you. You can't breathe. Henri finishes his bandaging, pats the corpse, you on the chest, and says, "Voila, ça ira mieux maintenant." There, you'll feel better now. Then, slowly, he turns towards you. This time, he looks directly at you. Not through, not past. His voice is different, clear, cold. "I missed you last time." You run, not thinking, just moving. Up the stairs, out of the aid post, into the fog. But the trench lines have shifted. They're not where they were. And the trees? Gone. You're in the middle of no man's land now. Shell craters, tangled wire, shattered helmets, and silence. Then you hear the whistle again. But it's not one whistle, it's many. All around you, as if Henry's not alone anymore. As if the dead he once tried to save are helping him now. You run until your legs burn, until your lungs betray you, until the mud sucks at your boots like hands desperate not to be forgotten. But no matter where you go, the fog follows, not draped over the land like a blanket, but alive. Moving, watching, pressing against your skin like cold breath from an open grave. The whistles fade, but the silence that replaces them is worse. You slow down, and you realize something. You're not sweating, your pulse too steady. You press 2 fingers to your neck, no beat, no warmth, no you. And suddenly the air is thin, even as it presses thick against your chest. You tell yourself it's a dream, hallucination, oxygen deprivation, trauma, maybe. But then, up ahead, you see it, a bunker, not a replica, not a ruin, a real one, intact. Lights glowing faintly behind reinforced windows, a red cross painted over the entrance, Henry's symbol. You hesitate, but the alternative is standing still, and standing still here? That's surrender. You step forward. The door creaks open before you touch it. Inside, it's not what you expect. Sterile, lit with old gas lamps. Tables covered with instruments, most too rusted to be useful. A phonograph playing a scratchy waltz, slow and off-key. There are no people, but there are patients. Cots line the walls, each occupied by a still body under gray sheets. Men, women, soldiers, civilians, some dressed in uniforms from wars not yet fought. Some in clothes so old they belong in a museum. Each one has a tag tied to their toe. You inch closer to the nearest cot. The tag reads, name, Jacques Laville. Private, date of death, 12th of May 1916, cause internal bleeding, untreated. Notes, found by Henry, was speaking when he shouldn't have been, now sleeps peacefully. You step back. The next tag, same story. Civilian, date of death, 3rd of February 1923, hypothermia near Verdun. Notes, says she was looking for someone named Henry. Now at peace. You move to the 3rd, your hands tremble. Name. Date of death. Still resisting, still wandering. Will join us soon. You drop the tag like it burns. Behind you, footsteps. You don't turn. You already know who it is. Henry walks past you, not even looking your way. He goes to the last cot, gently adjusts the sheet, murmurs something too low to catch, checks the patient's non-existent pulse. Then finally he looks at you and smiles again. But this time it's different. No pity, no curiosity, just inevitability. To his fatigue, you're tired. He says it softly like a lullaby, like a fact. And you want to argue, you want to say no, to scream that you're not done, not ready. But the truth is, you are tired, bone deep, mind worn, soul thin. You stumble backward into the hallway and notice a mirror, one of those old, warped ones bolted to a steel plate. You glance into it, and the reflection doesn't move like you. It watches, then raises its hand and waves. A moment later, it smiles with Henry's mouth. You scream, but no sound comes out because your throat is gone. You stagger away, hand brushing against the wall, and feel something embedded in the stone. A plaque. You wipe the dust away, etched in brass. This aid station is dedicated to Henry Leclerc, medic of the 21st Division. Disappeared June 14, 1916, while tending to the wounded during heavy shelling. May his service never be forgotten. You stare at the date. June 14th, that's today. You hear the phonograph needle reach the end of its record. A soft click, then silence. And from that silence, a voice, yours, calling out in the dark, not from your throat, from one of the cots. You turn back. One of the sheets rises, just slightly. Someone sits up. It's you, pale, blank-eyed, smiling gently, your twin, your echo. Henry walks over and helps it lie back down, covers it with care, then gestures to the empty cot beside it. You shake your head, step backward, but the room tilts, your feet lose the floor. You land back outside the bunker, except it's not a bunker anymore. It's a grave, a trench, a wound. You're alone again. The fog curls around your ankles like it missed you. Then, in the distance, barely audible, the whistle. But this time, it's not calling you, it's calling someone else, because Henry has moved on. For now, and your time is ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Can stop trusting your feet. They carry you forward, sure, but no matter how far you walk, you always end up where you started. A flooded trench, a broken sign, that damn red cross. The fog never changes. It wraps around your thoughts now, not just your skin. You try to remember how long you've been wandering. An hour? A day? A week? You remember your name, don't you? You force yourself to say it out loud. Nothing comes out, not even breath. You check your pulse again. Still nothing. That should terrify you, but all you feel is exhaustion, like your body already accepted this fate and forgot to let your brain in on it. There's a sound now, not footsteps, not voices, knocking, soft, distant, rhythmic. 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks. It echoes oddly, like it's not coming from any one direction. You spin around, and then you see it. A house. No, a cottage. Stone walls, thatched roof, warm light flickering through a window. Completely wrong for this battlefield. But there it is. Like it's always been there, like it belongs more than you do. You approach, your boots crunch on gravel that wasn't there a moment ago. And again, 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks. But now they're not distant. They're coming from inside. You reach the door. It's painted blue, new paint, fresh, the kind that shouldn't survive in Verdun's rot and ruin. Your knuckles hover just above the wood. You knock once, twice, then stop, because the door is already opening. The woman standing there is ancient, not in a dusty cliché way, but in a timeless way. Hair white as snow, eyes like frostbitten glass. She looks at you like she was expecting someone else, and maybe she was, but she steps aside. "Come in, Henry," she says softly. You try to correct her, to say you're not Henry, that he's behind you somewhere in the mist, wrapping another lost soul in gauze and guilt. But again, no words. You step inside. The cottage smells like soup, wood smoke, wet wool drying on a radiator, the kind of place you only remember from childhood dreams. She gestures to a chair. You sit without meaning to. "He's been knocking again," she says, stirring the pot. "Every year, same pattern, same time, on the same doors. You don't understand. You try to ask what she means, but she keeps talking. When he first came, I thought he was just another ghost. Poor boy, lost his way in the war." She ladles soup into a bowl, hands it to you. It's warm, real. But he wasn't lost, she continues. He was looking for the ones he couldn't save, for the ones who cried out his name in the end. Your fingers tighten around the spoon. She sits across from you. And when he found them, he didn't let go. You stare down at the soup. For a second, your reflection stares back, except it's not yours, it's his. Henry Leclerc, eyes sunken, face tired, but still kind, still hoping. "You're one of them now, aren't you?" she asks quietly, still trying to walk your way out of Verdun. You want to deny it, but you can't, because suddenly the knocks are coming again, not from outside, From below, under the floorboards. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 knocks. Her smile fades. They followed you here. She doesn't sound scared, just tired. You'd better answer. He doesn't like being ignored. You don't want to, but your body's already rising, already crossing the room, already pulling at the old trapdoor in the corner. It creaks open slowly. Darkness yawns beneath. You descend. The steps go deeper than they should, far deeper than any cottage basement has a right to. The light above you shrinks, then vanishes. And then, more cots, more bodies. This time you're not just watching, you're walking among them like they're yours. Your patience, your regrets, your friends. You kneel beside one, a soldier with his jaw blown off, eyes wide, but not afraid. He looks at you and mouths a single word. Mercy. Then you understand. This place isn't punishment, it's penance. Henry wasn't cursed, he chose this. He built this place in the fog, one memory, one failure at a time. And now you're here, because you couldn't leave, because part of you never wanted to, because some wounds never close, but some debts, they can be repaid, one patient at a time. You reach for the bandages beside the cot and begin. The first time you wrap a bandage, your fingers shake. Not from fear, those nerves were left somewhere on the surface, but from something deeper, something older, a memory maybe, a guilt that's been waiting for your hands to do the right thing. The soldier beneath you watches, not blinking, not judging, just waiting, as if he's known you far longer than you've known yourself. You place a folded cloth beneath his shattered jaw, tie it gently behind his head. Your movements are automatic now, muscle memory from a life you never lived. But Henry did, and maybe that's the point, because as the cloth settles, something strange happens. The soldier exhales, not in pain, not even in relief, just finality. And then his body fades, not into nothing, but into light, faint, soft, like morning fog touched by sun. You stumble back, blinking. The cot is empty, but the sheet remains, folded neatly at the corners. Henry's style. You move to the next cot. A nurse this time. Her face is burned, but her eyes are intact. Intelligent, sad. Her tag reads, burned during gas attack 1917. Lingered for days alone. She doesn't speak. You don't either. You just begin. Cool water, clean gauze, hands that know exactly how to comfort, even when nothing can be fixed. When you're done, she too exhales and fades. You move to the next, then the next. Each one takes something out of you. Not blood, not breath, but memory. Weight. The ache of having been helpless too long. Hours pass, or maybe lifetimes. At some point you stop noticing the difference. And then one cot left, one patient. But it's not a stranger this time. It's you. Eyes closed, brow furrowed, mud-stained clothes, boots that have walked in circles since time forgot how to count. You kneel beside the cot and don't know what to do, because there are no visible wounds, no blood, no burns, just exhaustion, the deep kind, the kind you don't heal from. You just accept. And then you feel him behind you, Henry. You don't need to turn around to know it's him. You hear his breath, feel the weight of his eyes, the sorrow in his silence. I couldn't save myself either, he says quietly. That's why I stayed, to save the ones who still cried out in the dark. You nod, because you finally understand. This place isn't a trap. It's a threshold, a halfway point between memory and mercy, between holding on and letting go. You can rest now, Henry says, or you can walk a while longer, help the next one. He gestures to the far wall, and you see it, a door. Not a dramatic one, just wood and hinges, a little crooked, but behind it, no fog, no moaning wind, just a sunrise and a village, chimneys smoking, children's laughter echoing faintly. Home. Your home? Maybe, or maybe it's someone else's. Does it matter? You step toward the door. Your reflection in its window pane is almost normal, a little pale, a little worn, but you touch the handle, then stop, because the knocks start again. 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks. You turn, Henry's eyes meet yours, and in them, hope. Not that you'll leave, but that you'll choose, that this time someone will stay by choice. So you step away from the door, pick up the satchel at your feet, tie it over your shoulder, walk back to the cots and wait, because somewhere, someone is crying out in the dark, and they need a medic, even if he doesn't know who he is yet, even if his pulse has already stopped. You whisper, quietly, you are not afraid of ghosts? Because now, you aren't one, you're their guide. You are Henry, or maybe you were all along. You wait in the fog, not lost anymore, not wandering, just waiting. For the next knock, the next soul, staggering through the mist with broken boots and no memory of how they got here. You know the rhythm now. You feel it in your bones. 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks. And sure enough, he comes. A British private this time, too young for this war, too small for the uniform that drowns him in itchy wool and someone else's blood. He looks at you like you're a mirage, a trick of shell shock, but you smile, the same smile Henry wore before you, soft, reassuring, honest. You lead him back to the cottage, let him sit, let him breathe, let him forget, just for a moment, that the last thing he remembers is the blast, the fire, the awful silence afterward. You hand him soup. He doesn't ask where it came from, nobody ever does. He drinks, warms, begins to fade, but not yet. First he has to see them. The cots, the others like him, all of them in that gentle half-light, waiting for someone to notice they mattered. You guide him there, help him wrap the first wound. Show him how the cloth softens if you hum quietly, how the pain fades if you don't look away. He won't ask your name, but he'll remember your face. That's how it works now. Not titles, not medals, just faces, hands, kindness in the afterfog. Time doesn't matter here, but years must be passing somewhere. Because once in a while, someone shows up in strange clothes. American fatigues, Korean names, a girl with a braided bun and a Red Cross armband from Vietnam, all of them wounded by war. None of them alone for long. And through it all, the fog never clears. It shifts sometimes, thins when someone is ready, but it never truly disappears, because it's not just weather, it's memory, it's grief. It's the part of the world that refuses to forget the screams buried in trenches, the letters never sent, the boots never recovered. And you've stopped trying to fight it. You've made peace with the idea that ghosts don't haunt places. They haunt moments, split seconds of regret too sharp to fade. And someone has to walk with them. Someone has to remind them they mattered, that they were more than gunfire and dog tags and noise. Sometimes late in your shift you hear him. Henry. He doesn't speak often anymore. But when he does, it's to remind you, this was never a curse. This is the work, and you nod. Because you feel it every time a soldier fades into light. Every time a hand you hold stops trembling. Every time someone new knocks. Sometimes you wonder what would happen if you walked through that crooked wooden door, if you finally let yourself go, let yourself rest. But then you hear it again. 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks. You sigh, smile, pick up the satchel, and open the door, because someone else just arrived. And they're afraid of ghosts. But they don't have to be. Not while you're here. It's quieter now. Not silent, but gentler. The knocks come less often. The faces are different, no longer twisted in agony or shock. They arrive with questions instead of screams. They sit longer by the fire. They talk. The fog, once thick enough to choke you, drifts like soft wool now. It parts for your steps, curls around the eaves of the cottage like smoke from a long-forgotten pipe. You've stopped counting the years. Because here, time doesn't pass, it settles. Sometimes in the stillness, you see outlines in the mist, faint forms, not soldiers, not patients, but thousands of them. Each one waiting to open, each one with a soul behind it, knocking. And for each knock, there's a guide, a medic, a nurse, a quiet girl who once carried water across a field full of limbs, a boy who sang lullabies to dying friends, all of them doing the work. Henry comes to sit with you now, not to instruct, but to rest. He watches the fire with eyes that have seen more endings than stories. I used to wonder if I'd ever stop, he says one evening, but then someone showed up. You. You shake your head, humble as always. You taught me, I just followed. He chuckles, not at you, but at the idea. No, my friend, I just opened the door, you walk through it. He rises slowly, his steps softer than they once were, his uniform clean now, pressed, as if he's preparing. I think I've done enough, he says. The firelight flickers in his eyes. You'll carry it on? And somehow, you know the answer has already been said. With every life you tended, with every knock you answered, with every hand you held in the half-light of a fog that remembers everything. You watch as he walks toward the crooked wooden door, the one that never quite fit the frame. He pauses, looks back, smiles, and opens it. Light spills in, not just morning gold, but something purer, like forgiveness. He steps through. The door closes gently behind him, and for a moment the world is still. Then, 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks. You rise, No hesitation now. You open the door. There's a girl, maybe 17. Her coat's too big, her eyes too old, but her hands are steady. She says nothing, just nods. You hand her a roll of gauze, show her the cots. She follows, because that's how it goes. One soul at a time, each one learning the rhythm, the work, the purpose. You don't need names anymore. You become something more than a medic. You are memory. You are mercy. You are the soft voice in the dark saying, I see you. You're not alone. And long after this story fades, after the video ends and the fog rolls back of forgotten fields, you'll still be here, listening, helping, answering, until the very last knock, until the very last soul. And when your turn comes, when the door creaks open, not for another patient, but for you, you'll smile, step into the light, and finally, rest. Sleep well tonight, my dear listener. Wherever you are, whatever ghosts you carry, may they be quiet, may they be kind. Drink something warm, rest your bones, and if you ever hear a soft knock in the night, don't be afraid. It might just be someone like you, still doing the work, still walking through the fog. For all of us.